The Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman murders. On the night of June 12, 1994, a white Akita with blood-stained paws led a neighbor down a dark walkway at 875 South Bundy Drive in Brentwood, Los Angeles. What waited at the end of that path would become the most talked-about crime scene in American history. So what really happened that night, and how did the man accused of it all walk free? Nicole Brown Simpson was born on May 19, 1959, in Frankfurt, West Germany. She grew up in Southern California, graduated from Dana Hills High School, and worked as a waitress at the Daisy nightclub in Beverly Hills, where she met O.J. Simpson in 1977. She was 18. He was 30 and still married to his first wife. They married on February 2, 1985, and had 2 children together. Nicole filed for divorce on February 25, 1992. After a brief reconciliation, they separated for good in May 1994. At the time of her passing, Nicole was 35 years old, living in Brentwood with her children. Ronald Lyle Goldman was born on July 2, 1968, in Chicago, Illinois. Raised by his father, Fred Goldman, after his parents divorced in 1974, Ron grew up in Buffalo Grove, Illinois, attended 1 semester at Illinois State University, then moved to Los Angeles. He worked as a waiter at Mezzaluna Trattoria in Brentwood, an aspiring restaurateur and occasional model. He had met Nicole approximately 6 weeks before that night. He was 25 years old, returning a pair of eyeglasses that Nicole's mother had left at the restaurant. Their relationship was platonic. O.J. Simpson was a football legend. He won the Heisman Trophy in 1968 at USC, was drafted first overall by the Buffalo Bills, and in 1973 became the first NFL player to rush for over 2,000 yards in a single season. He was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1985. He later starred in films and served as a spokesman for Hertz rental cars. But behind the fame, Simpson had a documented history of harming Nicole. On New Year's Day, 1989, police found Nicole hiding in bushes, badly beaten. Simpson pleaded no contest to spousal battery. Prosecutors later documented 62 incidents of harmful behavior. That evening, both Nicole and O.J. had attended their daughter's dance recital. Nicole dined at Mezzaluna afterward. Around 9:15, her mother called the restaurant about the forgotten glasses, and Ron Goldman volunteered to return them. Meanwhile, O.J. and houseguest Kato Kalin returned to Simpson's Rockingham estate. At 10:02, a call was placed from Simpson's Bronco to his girlfriend Paula Barbieri. Between 10:15 and 10:30, both Nicole and Ron were killed at Nicole's home. Nicole was found near the front gate, stabbed 7 times in the neck and scalp. A 14-centimeter wound across her throat had severed both carotid arteries and both jugular veins. Ron was found roughly 10 feet away, stabbed 19 times, with defensive wounds showing he had fought back. At the scene, investigators recovered a left-hand Aris leather glove, a dark knit cap, and bloody shoe prints from rare Bruno Magli Lorenzo shoes, size 12, only 299 pairs sold in the entire country. At Simpson's estate, Detective Mark Fuhrman discovered a matching right-hand bloody glove behind Kato Kalin's guest house. Simpson's DNA was found in blood drops at Bundy. The probability of a random match was 1 in 9.7 billion. Blood consistent with Simpson, Nicole, Milt, and Ron was found throughout Simpson's white Ford Bronco. Simpson had unexplained cuts on his left hand. When Simpson failed to surrender on June 17th, he fled with friend Al Cowlings in a white 1993 Ford Bronco, carrying his passport, a disguise, and $8,750 in cash. An estimated 95 million Americans watched the 75-mile 90mm a 90-minute pursuit at roughly 35 miles per hour through Los Angeles freeways. NBC interrupted the NBA Finals to air it. Simpson held a firearm to his own head throughout as Detective Tom Lang negotiated by phone, pleading with him to think of his children. The chase ended at Simpson's Rockingham estate, where he surrendered after an extended standoff. The trial began January 24, 1995. The prosecution was led by Marcia Clark and Christopher Darden. The defense dream team included Johnny Cochran, Robert Shapiro, F. Lee Bailey, Barry Scheck, and Robert Kardashian. On June 15th, when Darden asked Simpson to try on the bloody gloves, Simpson visibly struggled to fit them. Cochran delivered his famous line, "If it doesn't fit, you must acquit." The defense then obtained audio tapes of Detective Fuhrman using racial slurs 41 times, devastating his credibility. On October 3, 1995, after less than 4 hours of deliberation, the jury found Simpson not guilty. Roughly 100 million people watched. In February 1997, a civil jury unanimously found Simpson liable for the wrongful deaths and awarded $33.5 million in damages. He moved to Florida to protect his assets. On September 13, 2007, Simpson led an armed robbery at a Las Vegas hotel. Exactly 13 years after his acquittal, he was convicted and sentenced to 33 years. He was paroled on October 1, 2017. O.J. Simpson passed away on April 10, 2024, at age 76 of 24 at age 76 of metastatic prostate cancer. On November 14, 2025, his estate formally accepted the Goldman family's creditor claim for nearly $58 million, the first acknowledgement of the debt after 31 years. Fred Goldman continues to pursue the estate. But while the Simpson case played out on television screens across the country, it was far from the first time Los Angeles had been shaken to its core. Decades earlier, a group of strangers arrived at a quiet home in the hills, and what they did there would haunt the city forever. The Tate Murders. On the morning of August 9, 1969, a housekeeper arrived at 10,050 Cielo Drive in Benedict Canyon and found a scene so horrific that responding officers compared it to nothing they had ever witnessed. 5 people were dead. The word pig was written on the front door in the victim's blood. Who could do something like this, and why? Sharon Tate was born on January 24, 1943. A rising actress, she appeared in Valley of the Dolls and earned a Golden Globe nomination. She was married to director Roman Polanski, who was overseas working on a film. Sharon was 8.5 months pregnant. Jay Sebring, born Thomas John Cummer, was 35, America's first celebrity men's hairstylist, with clients including Steve McQueen and Warren Beatty. He remained close to Sharon after their relationship ended in 1966. Abigail Folger, 25, was the heiress to the Folger coffee fortune, a Radcliffe graduate and volunteer for the Robert Kennedy campaign. Wojciech Frykowski, 32, was a Polish aspiring filmmaker and close friend of Polanski. He and Folger were house guests at the property. Stephen Parent was visiting the estate's caretaker, William Garretson, and became the first to lose his life in his car at the front gate. Charles Manson was born on November 12, 1934, in Cincinnati. He spent more than half his life in correctional institutions before being released on March 22, 1967, into the Summer of Love in San Francisco. He gathered followers, mostly young women, through manipulation and hallucinogens, forming what became known as the family at Spahn Ranch. After the Beatles' White Album, Manson developed his helter-skelter ideology, a prophesied apocalyptic conflict he believed his followers could ignite through taking lives. His anger at record producer Terry Melcher, who had rejected his music and previously lived at Cielo Drive, helped determine the target. The group sent that night included Charles Tex Watson, a former honor student from Texas turned Manson's chief lieutenant, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Linda Kasabian, who served as driver and lookout. Just after midnight on August 9th, Watson cut the phone lines and led the group onto the property. Stephen Parent was the first to be harmed, slashed and shot 4 times as he attempted to leave. Watson entered through a window and opened the front door. He awakened Frykowski by kicking him and declared, "I'm the devil, and I'm here to do the devil's business." Sharon, Sebring, and Folger were gathered in the living room. Sebring was shot when he protested the rough treatment of Sharon, then stabbed 7 times. Frykowski fought desperately, suffering 51 stab wounds, 13 blows to the head, and 2 gunshots. Folger fled to the lawn, but was caught and stabbed 28 times. Sharon Tate pleaded to live long enough to give birth, offering herself as hostage. She was stabbed 16 times. Atkins wrote "pig" on the front door, using Sharon's blood. The LAPD initially pursued theories unrelated to the true motive and failed to connect the Cielo Drive scene to what would happen the very next night. The break came when Susan Atkins bragged to cellmates at Sybil Brand Institute. Indictments were issued December 8, 1969. Prosecutor Vincent Bugliosi built the helter-skelter motive theory. Linda Kasabian was granted immunity and testified for 18 days as the prosecution's star witness. Manson carved an X into his forehead during trial, later modifying it to a swastika. All 4 defendants were found guilty on January 25, 1971, and sentenced to death. When California abolished the death penalty in 1972, the sentences were commuted to life with possibility of parole. Manson passed away on November 19, 2017, at 83 of cardiac arrest and metastatic colon cancer. Susan Atkins passed away on September 24, 2009, at 61 of brain cancer while incarcerated. Linda Kasabian passed away on January 21, 2023, at 73. Tex Watson remains incarcerated at Mule Creek State Prison, denied parole 18 times, with his next hearing scheduled for October 2026. Patricia Krenwinkel remains incarcerated at California Institution for Women in Chino, California's longest-serving female inmate at over 54 years. The parole board recommended her release on May 30, 2025. But Governor Newsom reversed the decision on October 14, 2025. For the second time. But the horror of that night was not finished. Manson was unsatisfied with the chaos at Cielo Drive. He said he would show them how it was done, and within 24 hours, he did. The La Bianca murders. Less than 24 hours after the nightmare at Cielo Drive, another front door was opened in the dark. This time, the victims were a married couple, a grocery chain president, and a self-made businesswoman with no connection to Manson or his followers whatsoever. They had done nothing wrong. They were simply home. So why were they chosen, and what did the scene reveal about the true depth of Manson's plan? Leno LaBianca was born on August 6, 1925. He was 44 years old, president of Gateway Ranch Markets, a wholesale grocery business founded by his immigrant father from Sicily. A USC finance graduate and World War II Army veteran, Leno struggled with a severe gambling habit and carried roughly $230,000 in debts. Rosemary LaBianca, born Ruth Catherine Elliott, was 38. She was a self-made businesswoman who ran a mobile dress boutique called Boutique Carriage and grew it into a successful retail operation, becoming a millionaire through sharp investments. The couple lived at 3301 Waverly Drive in Los Feliz. Manson chose their home because it was next door to 3267 Waverly Drive, where his acquaintance Harold True had lived. Manson and family members had attended a party there in 1968. The LaBiancas themselves had absolutely no connection to Manson or his group. On the night of August 9th into the early hours of August 10th, Manson personally accompanied the group, Watson, Krenwinkel, Leslie Van Houten, Atkins, Kasabian, and Steve Clem Grogan, driving around Los Angeles before directing them to Waverly Drive. Manson and Watson entered through an unlocked back door, woke Leno at gunpoint, and tied both victims with leather thongs. They covered their heads with pillowcases. Manson reassured them they were only being robbed. He then left the house and sent Krenwinkel and Van Houten inside. Watson stabbed Leno 12 times with a chrome-plated bayonet. Leno screamed, "Stop stabbing me! I'm dead! I'm dead!" Watson carved the word war into his abdomen. Krenwinkel inflicted 14 puncture wounds with a two-tined carving fork, leaving it protruding from Leno's stomach, and placed a steak knife in his throat. Rosemary fought back despite the pillowcase over her head, swinging a lamp at her attackers. Watson stabbed her with the bayonet, and Van Houten then stabbed her approximately 16 times in the back. Rosemary suffered 41 stab wounds in total. Krenwinkel wrote in Leno's blood on the walls, "Death to pigs," and "Rise." On the refrigerator, she wrote, "Helter Skelter," misspelling the phrase. The group then showered, ate food from the refrigerator, and petted the family dogs before leaving. The Tate and LaBianca cases were tried together, resulting in the same verdicts and sentencing. Van Houten's original conviction was overturned on appeal in 1976 after her attorney Ronald Hughes disappeared during trial, widely believed to have been harmed on Manson's orders. After a mistrial at her second trial, she was reconvicted in 1978. Leslie Van Houten was released on parole on July 11, 2023, after 53 years, the only Manson family participant convicted of taking a life to be freed. She was formally discharged from parole on August 7, 2025, fully free. Every other participant remains either incarcerated or deceased. The Manson cases had exposed a kind of senseless cruelty that Los Angeles had never seen. But just over a decade later, another scene in the Hollywood Hills would prove that in this city, even the underworld had its own brutal rules. The Wonderland Murders. On the morning of July 1, 1981, furniture movers arrived at 8763 Wonderland Avenue in Laurel Canyon. Through the walls, they heard a faint moaning. When police forced the door, what they found inside was so devastating that officers on scene compared it to the Tate and LaBianca cases. 4 people were dead. 1 barely survived. And the trail would lead from a notorious Hollywood figure to a legendary name in the entertainment industry. But would anyone ever be held accountable? The home served as headquarters for the Wonderland Gang, a feared distribution ring operating out of Laurel Canyon. Ron Launius, 37, was the group's leader, a former Air Force serviceman, dishonorably discharged for smuggling. Authorities had 27 open cases they believed he was connected to. Billy Deverell, 44, was the second in command, an overhead crane operator. Joy Miller, 46, was the leaseholder of the house, a former attorney's wife and recent cancer survivor. Barbara Richardson, 22, was the youngest she was visiting as a companion of another member. Ron's wife, Susan Launius, roughly 30, survived the attack but suffered catastrophic head injuries and permanent memory loss, leaving her unable to testify about what happened. Eddie Nash, born Adel Garib Nasrallah on April 3, 1929, was a Palestinian immigrant who had built a nightclub empire of 36 liquor licenses across Hollywood, including the Starwood, Kit Kat, and 7 Seas. By the late 70s, he was a major figure in the underworld with a severe freebase addiction. John Holmes, born August 8, 1944, was an adult film performer credited in at least 573 productions. By 1981, his own addiction had ended his career. He served as the link between the Wonderland Gang and Nash. Gregory Diles, Nash's 300-pound bodyguard, was the enforcer. Holmes owed the Wonderland Gang significant debts and told them about Nash's stash. On June 29, 1981, the gang robbed Nash's home, taking over $1.2 million in goods and cash, with Holmes acting as the inside man who left Nash's patio door unlocked. Nash discovered Holmes's involvement when an associate spotted Holmes wearing one of Nash's stolen rings. Holmes was confronted and forced to reveal the identities of the robbers. Shortly before 3 a.m. on July 1st, assailants entered the townhouse believed to include Diles, with Holmes forced at gunpoint to gain entry via the security buzzer and bludgeoned the occupants with steel pipes and hammers. All 4 victims were beaten to death in their beds or on the floor. Susan Launius was left for dead with a crushed skull. She lay injured for over 12 hours before the furniture movers heard her moaning. Lead detectives Tom Lang and Bob Souza, who would later work the O.J. Simpson case, found Holmes's left palm print on the headboard in the Launius bedroom. Holmes was tried in 1982 and acquitted, though he spent 110 days in jail for contempt after refusing to cooperate. Nash and Diles were tried in 1990 to 1991. The first trial ended in a hung jury 11-1 for conviction. In the second trial, both were acquitted. Nash later admitted he had bribed the lone holdout juror with $50,000. In a 2001 federal RICO plea, Nash admitted ordering associates to the house and that harm might have resulted, receiving only a 4.5-year sentence. The Wonderland case remains officially unsolved. No one was ever convicted. Holmes passed away from AIDS on March 13, 1988, at 43. His first wife later revealed he had confessed to leading 3 men to the house. Nash passed away on August 9, 2014, at 85. Diles passed away of liver failure on January 16, 1997. A 4-episode MGM Plus docuseries, The Wonderland Massacre and the Secret History of Hollywood, hosted by Michael Connelly, premiered September 8, 2024. The house at 8763 Wonderland Avenue still stands today, valued at approximately $1 million. No convictions, no justice, and a secret taken to the grave. But the next case would take even longer to unravel, and it would be a bathroom microphone that finally cracked it open. The murder of Susan Berman. On December 23, 2000, a woman was found in her own home on Benedict Canyon Drive in Los Angeles, executed with a single gunshot to the back of the head. Days later, Beverly Hills police received an anonymous letter containing just one word: cadaver. The letter would go unsolved for 15 years until a live microphone captured the one sentence that changed everything. So who sent the letter? And what did those words on the recording really mean? Susan Jane Berman was born on May 18, 1945. Her father, Davy Berman, was a major organized crime figure who ran the Flamingo Hotel in Las Vegas after Bugsy Siegel's passing. A UCLA graduate and journalist, Susan authored several books, including Easy Street, a memoir of growing up in that world. She had been Robert Durst's close friend since college in the late 1960s. Durst walked her down the aisle at her 1984 wedding. After the 1982 disappearance of Durst's first wife, Kathleen McCormack, Berman served as his unofficial spokesperson and allegedly impersonated Kathleen in a phone call to her medical school. By 2000, Berman was in financial distress and Durst had sent her $50,000 in 2 checks. Robert Allen Durst was born on April 12, 1943, heir to the Durst Organization, a real estate empire worth over $8 billion. His mother took her own life when he was 7. His first wife, Kathleen McCormick Durst, disappeared on January 31, 1982, and her body has never been found. Durst was never charged in her disappearance until 2021. He married his second wife, Deborah Lee Haratan, in December 2000. After Berman's passing, he fled to Galveston, Texas, disguised as a mute woman named Dorothy Siner, where he took the life of his neighbor, Morris Black, in September 2001. He dismembered the body. He was acquitted of that on self-defense grounds in 2003. Susan Berman was found on December 23rd at 1527 Benedict Canyon Drive, a single gunshot to the back of the head. There were no signs of forced entry, and nothing had been taken from the residence. Days later, the anonymous letter arrived at the Beverly Hills Police Department. It contained only her address and the word cadaver, with Beverly misspelled as Beverly. Investigators had no leads on who sent the letter, and the case went cold. The case went cold for 15 years. Then, HBO's 2015 documentary, The Jinx, The Life and Deaths of Robert Durst, proved pivotal. During production, Berman's stepson uncovered a 1999 letter from Durst to Berman, whose envelope bore the identical Beverly Hills misspelling and virtually matching handwriting to the cadaver note. In the documentary's final interview, after being confronted with this evidence, Durst went to the bathroom with his microphone still live. He was recorded saying, "There it is. You're caught. What the hell did I do? Killed them all, of course." Durst was arrested at a New Orleans Marriott on March 14, 2015, the night before the finale aired. He was found with a .38 caliber revolver, $42,631 in cash, a latex mask, maps of Cuba, and his passport. His trial began in March 2020, but was halted by the pandemic, resuming in May 2021. In a stunning development, Durst's own defense admitted he wrote the cadaver note. On the stand for 15 days, Durst admitted lying about the note for 20 years and acknowledged how difficult it was to believe he wrote the letter, but did not take Susan's life. On September 17, 2021, Durst was found guilty of first-degree taking of life with special circumstances. He was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole on October 14, 2021. Robert Durst passed away on January 10, 2022, at 78 of cardiac arrest. Because his appeal was still pending, his conviction was automatically vacated under California law. The McCormick family's wrongful death lawsuit against Durst's estate and widow, seeking over $100 million, remained in the pre-trial phase as of 2025. The Jinx Part 2 premiered on HBO on April 21, 2024. If you've made it this far and enjoy deep dives into the most shocking criminal cases, hit that subscribe button and don't forget to press the bell icon. The murder of Fabio Sementilli. On January 23, 2017, a 16-year-old girl came home from school in Woodland Hills, California. She walked through the front door and found her father on the backyard patio, barely alive with 7 stab wounds. The home security footage had been stolen. His $8,000 Rolex was still on his wrist. If this was a robbery, why was nothing taken, and who left the front door unlocked? Fabio Sementilli was born on July 13, 1967, in Toronto, to Italian immigrant parents. He rose through the beauty industry to become Vice President of Education for Wella Professionals and Coty's Professional Beauty Division. managing over 500 education employees and Wella studios in Los Angeles, New York, and Toronto. His celebrity clients included Jennifer Lopez, Russell Crowe, and Jackie Chan. He lived in a gated home in Woodland Hills with his second wife Monica and their 2 daughters. At approximately 4:46 in the afternoon, 2 hooded men entered through the front door, which had been deliberately left unlocked. Robert Baker covered Fabio's mouth and began stabbing him. Christopher Austin covered his eyes and stabbed him once. Fabio suffered 7 stab wounds to his face, neck, chest, and thigh, severing major arteries. The attackers stole the home security DVR, staged a burglary scene, and fled in Fabio's 2008 red Porsche 911 Carrera. Just 1 minute later, his daughter returned from school and discovered her father. His Rolex was still on his wrist, completely inconsistent with a genuine break-in. The critical break came on February 14, 2017, when blood found at the scene and in the abandoned Porsche matched the DNA of Robert Louis Baker, a registered offender with a 1993 conviction and former adult film performer who worked as a racquetball coach at a Woodland Hills gym. Baker had attended Fabio's wake with a bandaged left index finger, a detail that immediately drew investigators' attention. But the investigation went deeper. Detectives discovered that Baker and Monica Sementilli had exchanged up to 5,000 calls and texts monthly and communicated through the encrypted app Viber, sending 95 messages on the day of the incident, then both deleting the app afterward. Monica's phone passcode was Baker's birth year. Evidence showed that Monica had remote access to the home security cameras and had accessed them just before the attack. Monica and Baker were arrested together on June 14, 2017. A recording captured Monica telling Baker, "Deny everything and don't talk." Baker pleaded no contest to first-degree taking of life in July 2023 and received life without parole. Third defendant Christopher Austin was arrested in Washington State on October 18, 2024, and pleaded no contest to second degree in January 2025, receiving 16 years to life in exchange for testifying against Monica. Monica's 10-week trial ran from January 24 to April 11, 2025. Key evidence included over 200 explicit photos of Monica and Baker, jail love letters signed Monica Baker till death, financial evidence showing Monica stood to gain over $3.6 million in assets and insurance, and Austin's testimony about the conspiracy. On April 11, 2025, Monica was found guilty of first degree and conspiracy with special circumstances of financial gain and lying in wait. She was sentenced on June 23, 2025, to life without parole. Judge Ronald Cohen called her the mastermind of the conspiracy. Monica is incarcerated at Central California Women's Facility in Chowchilla. Her defense filed a notice of appeal. Baker is at Wasco State Prison. Austin is at Ironwood State Prison. The case was featured on CBS 48 Hours, ABC 2020, NBC Dateline, and People Magazine Investigates in 2024 through 2026. A wife orchestrating her husband's end for money and a secret relationship. But the next case would involve 2 sons, a Beverly Hills mansion, and a spending spree that raised every red flag imaginable. The Menendez murders. On the night of August 20th, 1989, 2 brothers called 911 from a Beverly Hills mansion, screaming that someone had taken their parents' lives. Within months, they had burned through nearly $700,000 of the family fortune. The question that would divide America for decades was simple. Were they cold-blooded inheritors or survivors of something unspeakable happening behind closed doors? Jose Enrique Menendez was born on May 6, 1944, and fled Cuba alone during the Castro Revolution as a teenager. Through relentless ambition, he rose from washing dishes at the 21 Club to become CEO of Live Entertainment, which later became Lionsgate. He previously served as COO of RCA Records, overseeing artists including Duran Duran, Eurythmics, and the boy band Menudo. His estate was valued at approximately $14 to $15 million. Mary Louise Kitty Menendez, née Anderson, was born on October 14th, 1941, in Oak Lawn, Illinois. A former beauty queen who won the Miss Oak Lawn pageant in 1962, she was a teacher turned homemaker who met Jose at Southern Illinois University. The couple lived at 722 North Elm Drive in Beverly Hills, a $4 million mansion. Lyle Menendez, born January 10, 1968, and Eric Menendez, born November 27, 1970, would later claim years of harm at the hands of their father, with their mother allegedly enabling it. Eric testified that the misconduct began during childhood and never stopped. A letter Eric wrote to his cousin Andy Cano in December 1988 stated, "It's still happening, Andy, but it's worse for me now. Every night, I stay up thinking he might come in." 2 days before the incident, the brothers drove to San Diego and purchased two 12-gauge Mossberg pump-action shotguns using fake identification. On the evening of August 20th, while Jose and Kitty watched a James Bond film in the den, the brothers entered through the doors and opened fire. Jose was shot first point blank in the back of the head. Kitty was shot multiple times. When they ran out of ammunition, they ran to the car to reload, returned, and one brother placed the shotgun against Kitty's face and fired. She was shot 10 times in total. The brothers gathered the shell casings, drove to Mulholland Drive to dispose of the shotguns, then went to a movie theater and a food festival to establish alibis. Lyle called 911 shortly before midnight. In the 6 months that followed, the brothers spent approximately $700,000 of their inheritance. Lyle purchased 3 Rolex watches, a $64,000 Porsche, and a $550,000 restaurant called Mr. Buffalo's near Princeton. Eric hired a $60,000 per year private tennis coach named Mark Heffernan. In October 1989, Eric confessed to psychologist Dr. L. Jerome Oziel, who recorded the session in violation of patient confidentiality. Oziel's mistress, Judalon Smith, went to police in March 1990 after a falling out with a therapist. Lyle was arrested on March 8, 1990. Eric surrendered 3 days later upon returning from a tennis tournament in Israel. Now, if you have made it this far and enjoy content like this, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. The first trial in 1993 was televised on Court TV with separate juries for each brother. Defense attorney Leslie Abramson presented the harm defense extensively. Both juries deadlocked, resulting in mistrials. The second trial in 1995 had one jury, and Judge Stanley Weisberg severely limited the evidence of what the brothers claimed happened to them. On March 20th, 1996, both brothers were convicted of first-degree and conspiracy, sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms without parole. But the story did not end there. In May 2023, former Menudo member Roy Rosello filed a sworn statement alleging Jose Menendez had harmed him during childhood. Attorneys filed a habeas corpus petition citing this and the newly discovered Eric to Andy letter. In September 2024, Netflix released Monsters, the Lyle and Eric Menendez story, sparking a massive TikTok campaign for their release. Celebrities, including Kim Kardashian and Rosie O'Donnell, publicly supported them. LA County DA George Gascon announced he would seek resentencing to 50 years to life, making them immediately parole eligible. Gascon then lost re-election to Nathan Hochman, who announced his office would not support the petition. But on May 13th, 2025. Judge Michael Jessic sentenced both brothers to 50 years to life, making them immediately eligible for parole. Eric stated, "I committed an atrocious act against two people who had every right to live." Lyle admitted to committing perjury during the 1990s trials. The courtroom was packed, and supporters outside cheered when the ruling was announced. Their parole hearings in August 2025 ended in denial for both. Eric was denied, citing illegal cell phone use, gang affiliation, smuggling, and incidents while incarcerated. Lyles was denied, citing deception, minimization, and rule breaking, including cell phone use as recently as March 2025. Both remain incarcerated at Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility in San Diego. Three paths to freedom remain: a future parole hearing around 2027 to 2028, Governor Newsom's clemency, or the pending habeas corpus petition. Two brothers whose fate still hangs in the balance. But the next case would center on a different kind of power, a man whose music shaped a generation and whose temper terrified everyone around him. The murder of Lana Clarkson. In the early morning hours of February 3, 2003, a limousine driver sat outside a castle-like mansion in Alhambra, California, waiting for his employer. Then he heard a single gunshot. The front door opened, and the man stepped out holding a firearm, blood on his hands, and said 6 words that would end his legacy forever. So who was the woman inside, and what had really happened behind that door? Lana Jean Clarkson was born on April 5, 1962. She was a 40-year-old actress best known for the cult film Barbarian Queen in 1985 and an early role in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. After her career slowed, she was working part-time as a hostess at the House of Blues Foundation Room on the Sunset Strip, a position she had started just weeks before her passing. Harvey Philip Specter was born on December 26, 1939. He was a legendary music producer who created the wall of sound technique and produced defining records, including the Ronettes' Be My Baby, the Righteous Brothers' You've Lost That Lovin' Feelin', the most played radio single from 1997 to 2019, and the Beatles' Let It Be. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1989. But Specter had a long and documented history of threatening women with firearms. His ex-wife, Ronnie Specter, described being imprisoned in their mansion surrounded by barbed wire and guard dogs, with a gold coffin displayed as a warning of what would happen if she tried to leave. He discharged a firearm inches from John Lennon's ear during recording sessions. He pressed a loaded weapon into Leonard Cohen's neck, telling him he loved him. He threatened Debbie Harry, Dee Dee Ramone, and the Ramones' entire band during sessions. Multiple women described being held against their will when they tried to leave his presence, a pattern that stretched back decades. After meeting Clarkson at the House of Blues that night, Specter brought her to his Pyrenees Castle mansion at 1700 Grandview Drive in Alhambra. At approximately 5 in the morning, his driver Adriano de Souza heard a single gunshot. Specter emerged from the front door holding a firearm with blood on his hands and stated, "I think I killed somebody." Clarkson was found slumped in a foyer chair with a single wound through her mouth from a .38 caliber Colt Cobra revolver. Her purse was still slung over her shoulder, suggesting she had been trying to leave. The first trial from April through September 2007, before Judge Larry Paul Fidler, ended in a mistrial with the jury deadlocked 10-2 in favor of a conviction. The defense, initially led by celebrity attorney Bruce Cutler, who withdrew mid-trial, argued Clarkson had taken her own life. The second trial from October 2008 through April 2009 was not televised. 5 women testified to, Spector's pattern of threatening them with firearms when they attempted to leave. On April 13, 2009, Spector was found guilty of second degree and sentenced to 19 years to life. Phil Spector passed away on January 16, 2021 at 81 at San Joaquin General Hospital, attributed to complications from illness. He had been incarcerated at the California Healthcare Facility in Stockton. His family settled a wrongful death lawsuit with Lana Clarkson's mother, Donna Clarkson, for an undisclosed amount in February 2012. The case was featured in the 2024 Netflix series Homicide, Los Angeles. Donna Clarkson continues to honor her daughter's memory, gathering friends annually at Lana's resting place at Hollywood Forever Cemetery. A producer whose power had protected him for decades until it didn't. But the next case would involve a different kind of Hollywood figure. A woman with a complicated past and a dinner that ended on a dark side street. The murder of Bonnie Lee Bakley. On the evening of May 4, 2001, an aging television star and his wife left a restaurant in Studio City. They walked to his car, parked on a quiet side street. He said he went back inside to retrieve something. When he returned moments later, she had been shot twice and was dying in the passenger seat. The weapon was found in a nearby dumpster. It was not his. No one at the restaurant remembered him coming back. So what really happened in those missing minutes? Bonnie Lee Bakley was born on June 7, 1956, in Morristown, New Jersey. She became notorious for running Lonely Hearts mail-order romance schemes, extracting money from men through seductive letters and photographs. She had run these operations for decades, building an extensive network of targets. She was married 10 times and was drawn to celebrities, pursuing Dean Martin, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Christian Brando Marlon Brando's son. While simultaneously involved with Brando, she began a relationship with Robert Blake in 1999. After their daughter was born in June 2000, paternity confirmed through DNA. Blake married Bakley reluctantly in November 2000. They never lived together. Bakley occupied a small guest house beside Blake's Studio City residence. Robert Blake, born Michael James Gubitosi on September 18, 1933, was a former child performer who appeared in 40 Our Gang shorts. He became known for his role as Perry Smith in Cold Blood in 1967, and the title character in the television series Beretta from 1975 to 1978, for which he won an Emmy. His final film role was the Mystery Man in David Lynch's Lost Highway in 1997. Blake described a difficult upbringing and struggled with depression throughout his life. Blake and Bakley dined at Vitello's restaurant on Tujunga Avenue in Studio City that evening. After dinner, they walked to Blake's 1991 Dodge Stealth, parked on a dark side street. Blake claimed he returned to the restaurant to retrieve a handgun he had left behind. When he came back, Bakley had been shot twice in the head and shoulder while sitting in the passenger seat. She did not survive. The weapon, a World War II vintage Walther P38 with a partially scratched-off serial number, was found in a dumpster near the car. It was not Blake's firearm. No restaurant staff recalled Blake returning to retrieve anything. Two former stuntmen, Ronald Duffy Hambleton and Gary McClarty, claimed Blake had tried to hire them to carry out the act on multiple occasions, offering cash and describing different methods. However, both had severe credibility problems. McClarty suffered delusions that satellites were watching him, and his own wife testified he might not be truthful. Hambleton was a longtime user with a history of erratic behavior. Blake was arrested on April 18, 2002, and charged. The criminal trial from December 2004 through March 2005 before Judge Darlene Schempp saw defense attorney M. Gerald Schwartzbach, who replaced Thomas Messereau Jr. before trial, take apart the prosecution's witnesses piece by piece. On March 16, 2005, Blake was acquitted. D.A. Steve Cooley called the jurors incredibly stupid. But in a civil trial in November 2005, a jury found Blake liable for Backley's passing by a vote of 10-2 and ordered him to pay $30 million, later reduced to $15 million on appeal. Blake filed for bankruptcy in 2006. Robert Blake passed away on March 9, 2023, at 89, of heart disease at his Los Angeles home. He was not included in the Academy Awards or Emmy Awards in memoriam segments. His daughter, Rose Lenore, raised by Blake's older daughter, Delina, spoke publicly for the first time in October 2019, saying she had never asked Blake whether he was responsible for what happened to her mother. The case remains officially unsolved. No other suspect was ever charged. Another case with no conviction, and a question that may never be answered. But the final entry on this list is unlike anything else, a man who terrorized all of Los Angeles for over a year, leaving no pattern, no profile, and no mercy. The Night Stalker murders. Between June 1984 and August 1985, someone was entering homes across Los Angeles in the dead of night. The attacks were random. The victims ranged from their 20s to their 80s. The methods changed every time: a firearm one night, a blade the next, a blunt object after that. There was no pattern to profile, no type to predict, and an entire city was sleeping with their windows locked and their lights on. So how do you catch someone who follows no rules, and what finally gave him away? Ricardo Leyva Munoz Ramirez was born on February 29, 1960, in El Paso, Texas, the youngest of 5 children. His father was a railway worker with a violent temper. Ramirez suffered 2 severe head injuries during childhood. A dresser fell on him at 2 and a swing struck him at 5, contributing to temporal lobe epilepsy. The defining influence in his early life was his cousin Miguel Valles, a veteran with severe trauma from his service overseas, who showed him disturbing photographs and taught him stealth tactics. Ramirez witnessed Valles take his wife's life during an argument. He dropped out of high school, moved to California in 1982, developed a heavy addiction, and became devoted to Satanism. He lived nomadically, sometimes staying at the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. His reign of terror spanned over a year, with at least 28 people attacked in home invasions across the greater Los Angeles area. Jenny Vincow, 79, was the first to lose her life on June 28, 1984. Her throat slashed. Daily Okazaki, 34, was shot on March 17, 1985, and Tsai Lian Yu, 30, was taken the same night. Vincent and Maxine Zazara were both taken on March 27th. Mabel Bell, 83, and Florence Lang, 81, were bludgeoned with a hammer in May, pentagrams drawn on their bodies. Joyce Nelson, 60, was beaten to death on July 7th. Ramirez's sneaker print was left imprinted on her face. Max and Layla Knighting were attacked with a machete on July 20th. He forced victims to swear allegiance to Satan and left pentagrams at crime scenes. Ramirez was extraordinarily difficult to identify because he defied every profiling method. No consistent victim type ages ranged from the very young to the elderly, across all ethnicities. No consistent method. A vast geographic range spanning multiple jurisdictions. Detectives had almost nothing to work with. The key evidence chain began with a distinctive pair of Avius sneakers, a rare model with a patented cantilever sole, found at 8 or more crime scenes. Of the specific size 11.5, black only one pair had been shipped to Los Angeles. On August 24, 1985, A 13-year-old named James Romero III spotted Ramirez's stolen orange Toyota and noted a partial license plate. The abandoned car yielded a single fingerprint match through the newly installed AFIS, Automated Fingerprint Identification System, described as a near miracle because the database only contained prints of individuals born after January 1st, 1960, and Ramirez was born just 2 months later. On August 31st, 1985, after his mugshot was published across every newspaper and television screen in the state, Ramirez was recognized by residents in East Los Angeles while stepping off a bus. He tried to take 2 cars by force, but was chased by more than 10 neighborhood residents through the streets of Boyle Heights in broad daylight. Manuel de la Torre struck him with a metal fence post, and the crowd held him down until police arrived. The community had done what law enforcement could not. The trial lasted from July 1988 to September 1989, one of the longest in California history. During jury deliberations, juror Phyllis Singletary lost her life at the hands of her partner in an entirely unrelated incident, terrifying the remaining panel. On September 20th, 1989, Ramirez was found guilty on all 43 counts. 13 lives taken, 5 attempted, 11 assaults, and 14 burglaries. He received 19 death sentences. His statement at sentencing: "Big deal. Death always went with the territory. See you in Disneyland." On death row at San Quentin, Ramirez married freelance editor Doreen Laoy on October 3, 1996, after she wrote him approximately 75 letters over 11 years. She reportedly left him around 2009 when DNA connected him to additional unsolved cases. Richard Ramirez passed away on June 7th, 2013, at 53, at Marin General Hospital of complications from B-cell lymphoma, along with chronic hepatitis C. He had been on death row for over 23 years and never expressed remorse for any of his crimes. His body was not claimed and was cremated. The 4-part Netflix documentary Night Stalker: The Hunt for a Serial Killer premiered in 2021, bringing renewed attention to the detectives who spent that terrifying summer hunting him down. Peacock's Richard Ramirez, The Night Stalker tapes, featuring over 25 hours of never-before-released death row audio recordings, premiered in 2025. This was all from our side today. Thanks for watching. Click here to check out another video.